Trinomials, examples 5 and 6. Just to give you a few more examples that you could watch. So 25x squared times 1, we're going to take and put in our t-chart, would be 25x squared. The middle term is negative 10x, so we bring that over. And we want to multiply to get 25x squared, and we want to add to get negative 10x. So if we need to add to get a negative and multiply to get a positive, that means we need to have two negative numbers that would give us these values. So negative 1x times negative 25x would multiply to give us 25x squared, but then they add to get negative 26x, so that's not quite right. And then 25x squared could come from negative 5x times negative 5x. And when we add those two together, voila, we get negative 10x. So those are our magic numbers that we're going to bring over here. We replace our negative 10x with negative 5x minus 5x because they're equivalent. Then bring down your first term, bring down your last term. So I'm going to rewrite 25x squared and positive 1. And then you finish your problem by grouping. So group the first two and the last two. From 25x squared minus 5x, we could take out a 5x. And then we have 5 minus, 5x minus 1 left over. From the second group, you can take out a negative 1 is all we could take out of 5x plus 1. But then you still have 5x minus 1 left over. And remember, these two always have to match. That's very important. And then notice our factors that we took out. In other words, these two become one factor. And then the ones that match become the other factor. And they are the same for this one. So you could write it as 5x minus 1 squared. You don't have to, so I'm just going to put an or right there. They could be separate, or you could put them together as a square. Now let's look at example 6, our last example of trinomials. So we first take 4x squared and multiply it by negative 3. Bring it over to our t-table, our t-bar. So 4x squared times negative 3 is negative 12x squared. The middle term is 22x. So if we have to multiply to get a negative and add to get a positive, then we're going to need to have a negative and a positive combination. So let's start listing our options. So we have negative 1x times 12x. So that would add up to be 11x. And then let's switch those around and see if that works. So negative 12x times 1x would add up to be negative 11x. Still not enough. And then negative 12x squared could come from negative 3x times 4x. And those would add up to give us 1x. So that doesn't work. And if we switch the signs, we have negative 4x times 3x. And that would add up to be negative 1x, which is not helping. So what else could give us negative 12? Let's see. Negative 2x times 6x would add up to be 4x. And if we switch the signs, negative 6x times 2x would add up to be negative 4x. So 1 and 12, 3 and 4, 2 and 6 are all the factors of 12. And none of our combinations of positives or negatives would add up to give us 22x. So at that point, after we've exhausted all possibilities, we would call this one prime, because we have no numbers we could come up with that would help to do both multiply to give us negative 12x squared and add to give us 22x. So that's it for the examples of trinomials.